Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit the like and subscribe button. Head on over as well to pommyandoz.com for all your needs. Few of you have got out there and bought. I do believe you've now got that merchandise as well. So if you have, tag me on socials and stuff, let me know. I know some of you have DM'd me, so I don't like putting them pictures up because I think you've DM'd me because you don't want to show your face. But if you do, just tag me and I'll give you a hoy hoy and say hello. But Carlton have done some big business today. They have gone absolutely mental. And Mr. Nick Austin, as per usual, is up to his little tricks. The first deal off the rank was Carlton moved quickly. We've just covered that with the Brisbane video, but they moved very quickly for a future second from Brisbane Lions and pick 73, which is worth nil points. No points is 73, but Carlton did give up 34 and 64, meaning that they did have a deficit with next year's system of 305 points, which roughly equates to pick 48 in today's draft. So obviously that move is points-wise not good, but why did they do that? Future second means Carlton can now trade pick future 1 and future 2 because they own 2 future seconds. So remember the AFL rule, if you trade a future first, you can't trade a future second, you must have that in hand. Now Carlton have them picks available to them. So this was a very smart bit of business by Nick Austin, because then what happened was Carlton traded that future first and their future second, retaining Brisbane's future second and acquiring Hawthorn's pick 14. Now, why would they do this? A lot of people are straight away jumping on the Dan Houston bandwagon. I'm going to cover Dan Houston because obviously that's why you guys and girls have clicked this video. Obsessed with that great white hope. But we are going to look at it that I actually think Nick Austin's done this because he's very smart. And the players around that pick, you can actually offset a little bit of risk and gain a hell of a lot of reward from that. And that is a real fascinating little conundrum for the Blues, that they are looking very hard at trying to accommodate that. Now, let's look at what we know Nick Austin said. Nick Austin said that he wanted to get a pick between his first round pick and his second pick, which was that pick in the 30s. The Blues have done that quite comfortably, and now they've acquired that. Now, he said he was going to target back of centre types of players. So that opens up halfbacks, key defenders, all that malarkey, which isn't a surprise to me. It isn't a surprise to me, and I don't think it's a surprise to you. Every DM I've received from you guys and girls has been of that ilk. You want back centre players. Now, let's talk just briefly about players that Carlton might target and why they might target it. One of the big talks have been the worry about Carlton's best 22 and back trading it in. Now, if we look at this graph here, you'll see this is Brisbane are a really good copycat because they started their rebuild very similar to us. You look at how teams traded out. Of their best 23, 30% of their best 23 are traded in. Carlton's is 47, the highest on this graph. Collingwood's 43, Geelong's 30%, Melbourne's 21%, and Richmond's 18. And this is when they won the flag, the point they won the flag. You can see here that the points traded versus drafted, 38%, Geelong 45%. They've got that conveyor belt. The average pick spend, you can see, is Carlton 20 per player. Geelong and Collingwood very prudent with theirs, and that's that big 1% there when you might say, oh, what, they've drafted more than they have? Their points they've used in draft is more than what they've traded out because of the net deals of what they've traded out. So, although you can't copy other teams, it is a good indication of how a list is built. And if Carlton brought in another player, it's borderline on that there. So you can see that they're well within the purview. It's not too far. So let's have a look at what Carlton may do with their picks. So let's just break this down. Before this morning, Carlton had 1958 of points. They now have 2,497 points. That's 539 net gain. That's a huge increase. That's a huge increase, and that means that Carlton are working in the positive. These are good trades from the Blues. These, make no mistake of that. And 539, he's roughly picked 34. Carlton have basically, what they traded out, incidentally, they've got back. Pretty much. That's what they've gained. They've gained an extra pick. You look at the list spots with Owies and Carroll going to go. It means they'll be allowed to take 5 picks in the draft. We've got 5 picks. See why I'm thinking that Carlton may just stick their course. Let's have a look at what the Blues may do with that. So firstly, Carlton are probably going to go pick 12. And that's Toby Tarrant. Now, obviously my favourite player in this draft. We have talked about this guy ad nauseum. 187. His birthday's near mine as well, the 26th of October. I'm the 23rd. Bendigo Pioneers boy, so it really suits what the Blues are looking at. A gentleman that has probably got one of the sweetest kicks in the AFL and also can play in that midfield role. He has really stood out for the Bendigo Pioneers almost ridiculously, and he was named on the halfback line of their Team of the Year. And the big thing about Toby and what people don't underestimate is how good his kicking is. You are looking at a guy that is phenomenal, averaging 23.6 disposals a game. He's averaged 4.3 marks, 6.4 tackles, and has really stood head and shoulders above his peers. His ability as well to hit targets isn't understated. One of the best players in this draft by foot. Incredible engine. He's got a great turn of pace. And he's definitely one of these players that when you look at him in the long run, you can see this is what Carlton have always looked for when they've taken punts on halfbacks. A guy that can play midfield. This guy will be a midfielder given time. So it makes sense that Carlton acquire him, in my opinion, as that long-term prospect. He's a very, very sharp player that is good on the deck, good in the air, but more importantly, really good by foot. And Carlton have probably neglected that at times, looking at them players. They're really going to target, I think, great ball users, and that's probably why they've been linked with Dan Houston. That being said, let's look at Dan Houston. Carlton may go that route and bring in Dan Houston, a guy that's 28 next year, an absolute bullet-like foot, good aerially, good on the deck, good defensively. No doubt about it, one of the better players. If you had to list the top 30 players in the league, this guy would well be within it. An incredible career as Dan Houston, a guy that started off as almost a third forward when he was drafted to where he is now, one of the premier halfback flankers who can give and go and really tear games up. And this is a dire position of need. The way the AFL is going, players are getting older, staying on longer. Halfback is kind of a cushy spot per se. You could see that this guy's probably got another 5 years. And in the worst case, you can see him being a Cade Simpson type. You move him to the back pocket and everything is gravy, baby. It makes sense that Carlton come in here. Now, why could Collingwood mess this up? We talked about this quite ad nauseum again with Collingwood and this. They're asking for that pick 23 back. This is very reminiscent of some of Sauce's trades early when he was at Carlton. The need to win the trade. And I feel like Lepic is slightly wet behind the ears when he does his trade since he's taken over from what we know Graham Wright is now at Carlton. Feels like he's trying to win this trade too much. And the issue with that is the longer you don't have that contract signed and him in the front door, it opens it up. Now, Carlton are in that great position now that they can say, look, we can give you what you want. We don't want anything back. And this makes it a problem. The longer you try and pissy around trying to win deals, it can backfire. And that's what I find interesting about this. Because now Carlton is suddenly in the window. They're like, hi, you guys can't get the deal done. We can. This is a real interesting watch. Because if they miss it, I will laugh. Because this is what I mean about the AFL. This need to win the deal. It's like when you put something on Gumtree sometimes, the AFL. And you know, you always say like, oh, $800 all nearest offer. Retail value's $12.99. Pictures slightly used. You've done a fair deal. And then you get some dickhead in saying, I'll give you $300 and a handshake. I'll pick it up. People always want to win the deal. People don't want to pay the price anymore. And this is the problem. If you try and be too nuanced, could backfire. Watch this space. And then with pick 14, the Blues may take the risk on my other boy, Sandy Dragon's key defender, 194. He's an absolute delight to watch. If Darcy Moore had a baby with Tom Stewart, you would get Luke Traynor. This guy here is an aerial threat. He comes from great stock as well, the grandson of Dougie Wade, North Melbourne and Geelong player, and he really does stand out. He's had a few concussion issues, but he did come back late in the year. He does look the part, and if the Blues were clever with 12 and 14, it allows them to play the game. It allows them to play the game. And that is take the risk at the right point in time. This guy here is built different. And I don't think I've seen a defender in this type of analysis, in this type of area, since Dan Curtin, a guy that I look at and go, oh my God. This guy's defensive ability has really came on leaps and bounds when he was playing as a bottom ager. When he came on in the dying stages, he kicked that goal as well. You've got to remember that. He's a big game player. He rarely uses a one-on-one. His intercept marking is elite. Again, an elite user of the football. He's got great reads, and he's going to be learning off Jacob Weitering. And if you had to copy and paste Nick Haynes, who's the prototype of what he is, working with Hainsey, this could be an absolute shrewd move that Hayes plays that role with a similar dimensions for a year. You get Luke Traynor right, and game over. This guy here is incredible. You can go and watch the academy game against Coburg where this guy took the piss. Absolutely took the piss when he was playing. This guy here is built different. A guy that slid down the draft order, and I think that that is an issue for the other clubs. His right foot is something else, and you want to see him take some of the kick-ins around that play there. He hits targets, and he is corridor 101. Huge fan of Luke Traynor. If you get Luke Traynor, you are laughing. And that means pick 69 and 72 would be used on Ben Camporelli to match that bid. Very smart by the Blues, because now that they don't have a second rounder, it goes on their third rounder, as we know, with their debts, so that covers that base. And then it's depreciated value, which effectively will wipe out Carlton's third round pick next year. Smart business by Nick Austin again. I keep telling you about the debt system. The debt system is your friend if you play the game, and the Blues played the game here. Very smart by Nick Austin again, because the points you've lost this year, you've won back with that, because no one uses a third rounder. It is the match. No one next year for Carlton to worry about. There is Ison, there is Gresham, them types of players that you've got to look out for. But it's not a huge worry. So because Carlton with that, they're not going to worry about it, because Ison, Gresham, they're going to be late picks. And there is another guy as well that you've got to look out for, Mingara Clark, another small forward, who does look quite an exciting thing. But these are going to be NGAs. They're going to be late. So Carlton don't have anything to worry about next year. They've got that second rounder in the bank from Brisbane. And then they've also got them two futures. So Ben Camporelli comes in. Obviously, one of the best players coming out from South Australia. It is really worth noting as well with Ben Camporelli that he can play inside and outside. Real combative. He really finds the ball well. And this is something that I feel like Carlton do need. Someone who's clean in traffic, but also good at finding the ball. A man that slid because he's outside the first round. And father, sons and NGAs always slide if they're not in the 25 prospects here. Him and Lucas as well are freaks of nature in the terms of both of them finish really high with their vertical leap. Obviously, he sometimes doesn't use the ball well. And obviously, he ain't the fastest, is Ben Camporelli. But he is a very, very, very good footballer who's going to be learning from a lot of people. I'm glad where he's falling in the draft for one reason. Tapers the expectation. People get way too ahead of themselves with these kids. I'm a big fan of Ben, though. He's got a lot of skills that I feel will really, really sort him out. And in the VFL next year, that could be good. His ability to give and go and overlap and create them overloads in pockets of space shouldn't be understated, and that's something else Carlton lack. And he's a little bit of a dynamo around stoppage. He's very dangerous as that offload in stoppage. His brother will be probably rookied. I'm a big fan of Lucas, and you know what? I can see a lot of Nick Newman in Luke. I think he will learn off one of our greats and become a really good footballer. And that leaves us with maybe one more selection. So we've got Trainer, we've got Lucas Camparelli, we've got Toby, we've got Ben. That leaves us with one, if you're counting at home. Jacob Constanti in Owies Collateral, I'm calling it. Whatever Owies goes for, I can see this guy looks odds on to be delisted by Sydney, which makes sense. They can't do some deals. Carlton have got the same issue with Owies. I can see Jacob Constanti signing for Carlton with something ridiculous. Maybe like even that 79, and they just burn it to not get into the pre-season draft because Carlton are way down in them selections. This would be a really, really clever little acquisition for Carlton, I feel. And the reason why I'm big on Jacob is look at, he can't get in up at Sydney. They've got some great players. Sam Wicks, Tom Papley. Do you know what I mean? They've got James Rowbottom slides across the forward. Braden Campbell. They've got a lot of players there who are very clever. I've looked at his VFL, and his VFL towards the middle of the part of the year was really good. But the big part is Lockie Fogarty 2.0, averaging 4 tackles in the forward 50. He's a real menace there. And I feel it gives Carlton that benefit. Matty Owies has always been, is he a goal kicker, is he defensive? And the other guys mess around. I feel like Jacob Constanti comes in and it again allows Motlop and Durden just to go for more offensive roles. I'm really excited about this prospect here, and I feel like Carlton might do another Elijah Holland should they get this guy. Stay tuned with Jacob Constanti. Wherever he goes, whether it's North, whether it's Carlton, will be a great pickup. But hopefully that explains what Nick Austin's been thinking about. Peace, love and light. I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Pommy out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's had